Well, you guys, today's a very special episode, a long-awaited episode. I have my parents here on Seeing Other People. Barbara, Chuck, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Thank you.
What first went through your mind when I said I wanted to do an episode with you guys?
Okay.
Why not?
I-
I've watched
I
a
don't
number of
know.
your interviews, and it could be fun.
I think what first went through my mind was, what will the questions be?
Mm-hmm.
What are you asking us?
Is there anything you're afraid that I'm going to bring up?
No.
Hardly.
Okay. Then there's
You're
nothing to be afraid
you're
of.
a- you're a
No,
good
not at
kid.
all.
You're not gonna screw us over.
Yes, as we discussed last night, I broke none of the rules that were set
Is there
for me
anything
growing up.
you're afraid of?
No,
Okay.
there is not. But you guys sent in a lot of questions, so thank you. I'm excited to grill my parents a bit. Don't worry, they're nervous. They've asked for weeks what the questions are going to be. I'm like, it's not going to be hard. It's just about you guys and your thoughts and opinions on things.
We need to study and practice and prepare.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's start with the first question, which is, how did you two meet?
I'll give you my version. It was a very hot summer night in June, maybe 98 degrees, Monday night. My girlfriends and I were going to a fundraiser at a club called O Bar in Midtown Manhattan. And my two girlfriends canceled at the last minute because it was too hot. They didn't want to be bothered. My brother came into town. I was using his apartment. He wanted to boot me out of there, and he encouraged me to go by myself. So I went. I was dancing, having fun. They were serving lots of champagne. And this guy came over to me and asked me to dance.
Dad?
It was a hot summer night. I did drive my car up. I was living in a village at the time. I went there because a woman I knew, who I was not dating, I was her escort to different events, said, you got to go to this thing.
I wouldn't refer to yourself as an escort in general. But
Okay.
Continue.
No, I was basically the plus one. She needed a date or someone to show up with.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew her from business. And so she said, you got to go to this thing. It was an event. It was an Israeli bond fundraiser. And she said, you might have some fun. So I went. And it was interesting. It was at a nice club down in, I guess, Midtown. And I see this young woman here who had dark hair at the time, sipping champagne.
I still do have dark hair.
And I walked up to her. We started chatting. And I think we danced. And then she was out on the dance floor dancing with this accountant guy and making faces. She didn't want to be there.
You wanted him to rescue you?
I think that was the plot or the plan, but that's kind of happened.
We did practically close the place. I remember sitting at a booth-style table, just talking until they were emptying out.
So after we pretty much closed the place down, I had my car. It was still 90-something degrees out, so that was refreshing. And I drove her to her apartment, and we kind of figured out that we'd want to see each other again, which we did.
But I'd love to add that when we were having we had a second date the next week, and I took Dad to my tennis club, East River Tennis, where we had a lot of fun playing, and then had dinner down the street from our apartment at Entrecote, which is now closed, unfortunately. It's a real estate office. Dad asked me what I wanted to do 2 days later on Sunday, and I said, if I had my way, I would go and hit golf balls.
Which I've never heard her say
And
in my life.
people who know me know that I do not run to hit golf balls.
Did you want to, or did you just want to impress
I really
him?
wanted to. That was in my golf phase, banker golfing, tennis phase. And I think Dad thought this was heaven.
Yes,
That's
was
what we
an
did.
incentive. And by the way, when I went to her office a few days later, she had a putting green in the office. I'm thinking, this is really good. But the East River tennis, we played tennis, warming up, and she was whooping me down the line. I was thinking, what's going on here? And then we played. She doesn't like the way I play.
Yeah.
I play to win.
Yeah, that happens.
But no, so we had we kind of started doing things together. She went away to the Hamptons for the weekend. I went down to DC for a weekend after our second date. And I bought a couple of nice shirts. I said, I got someone who I'd like to impress or at least keep up with.
Those were the last shirts you ever bought for yourself ever again.
Exactly.
Those were all new shirts for me.
Yeah, I had to not be schlumpy. Yeah, I was living in a village. I didn't care about anything.
So, do you remember like going to this event alone and being nervous or being like, what am I going to do? Who am I going to talk to? Because a lot of my listeners like want to be going to events and want to meet people, not on dating apps, but they're so afraid to go somewhere by themselves.
I don't recall ever feeling that way. I had a friend who I won't name years ago. I still have that friend who I think was not very outgoing with strangers, not very chatty or talkative, very attractive person who I think people thought was unfriendly, but the person was actually shy. I don't think I ever felt that way. I just went to try and meet people. Going on your own to a new place allows you the opportunity to be yourself in a way that nobody has any expectations. You can just be you.
Yeah, absolutely. Dad, do you remember feeling any nerves around like going up to her and
No.
striking up a conversation?
Of course
I guess
not.
This is what you guys had to do. You didn't have Instagram and dating apps. And
We had
social
your
media.
dating was basically you go to these events, you had friends or friends of friends, or you go to bars, you meet people, you hang out, and it was inexact science, but it was those are the ways to meet it, or on a subway or bus, anywhere. There were so many people in being single in New York City. There were so many single people, and people were friendly enough in general. That kind of worked. But going to an event and having to be there by myself, I could talk to the wall.
Correct. That is true.
You know, my job mostly was client service, dealing with people, and I have no problem going up to people. It was interesting, some of the people I met at these kind of events, and there were some very, very nervous people.
Yeah.
Just kind of feeling insecure and trying to tell their story in a 12-second spot, and that it was a little chaotic.
But I would tell people to also find venues that they like that revolve around their interests. There was a network that had Friday night tennis parties around Manhattan, and I did that a lot. It was so much fun. I could go by myself and they would just mix you into tennis round robins, and it was lots of fun.
Yeah. And things like
Can't
that
help but
definitely
meet
still
people
exist.
that way.
I feel like there were a lot of like pickleball things this
I'll
summer
bet
for sure.
bet there are.
Especially
Yeah.
in New York City.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you never have anything to lose by going somewhere. To the point of, now people like meet on social media and stuff. How do you think social media, dating apps have impacted dating as you knew it? Do you think things are better now or worse?
It's a tough thing because obviously I'm not in a dating scene.
Yeah.
I've not had to deal with that, but I think it could be traumatic to some people who feel that they're being left out. Other people probably get a lot of hits because, hey, they're cute or this or whatever. There's something to selling themselves in a way, because that's what we're doing. We're marketing ourselves as individuals and trying to make a connection. Is it better? I don't know the answer. But as you know, the people are still using matchmakers, so obviously it's not perfect.
I think there are so many untruths on social media. There's got to be a lot of disappointment out there, and I'm sure it's tough.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's tough. It's just so different.
Well, but remember
people-
blind dates.
People, wait. We were in dating before cell phones. So in order to get a date, if you didn't see the person, in person, they had to call your house. Can you imagine that? They had to call your house. Likely your parents answered the phone if you weren't right on top of it. And it was just so different.
Yeah. So
it was
what?
complete.
And this was before machines.
When Dad dropped you off at your brother's apartment, did you discuss like a phone number exchange? Did you just make, oh, like next week, let's meet at this place at this time, or I'll pick you up? Like, what was the follow up actually like?
I don't totally recall. We did kiss and probably said, let's do this again.
I would have had a cell phone.
They wouldn't have cell phones back then.
I did.
It would have been bigger than your
Might
purse.
have been in the car, though. Right. It might have been in the car.
No.
I guess, we had a phone.
Yeah.
But you must have called. I don't remember.
Because I was downtown, she was uptown, so we had to communicate by carrier pigeon.
I think it was Monday, correct? Did we go away that weekend or the next weekend separately?
Probably that weekend, is my guess. I'm thinking of the sequence, and it was that weekend.
Not really sure.
Because that was the 20th, so you were right before July 4th.
And you guys took a trip together very early on in your relationship.
Dad went on a limb and invited me. Shortly after we met, after a few dates, he invited me to accompany him to a best friend's 40th birthday party in Vegas 6 weeks later.
Okay. Oh, wow. So early on, you invited her for something a month and a half down the road.
Why not?
And I thought it was a little strange. So I think later I found out that he just wanted to get the good airfares by
Nothing has changed.
I had a lot of points, kid.
He's still our travel agent,
Yes.
but I did not agree to go until a couple of weeks before, I guess.
Did it scare you that he asked? Or did it make you think, oh, he's serious?
I think I was secretly excited and happy that he asked.
Yeah.
Let me just jump ahead and say, after the first week or two, we didn't play the games. We didn't follow the rules. We were just together.
Yep.
We always wanted to be together, and we didn't fake it.
Was there a conversation around, like, we don't want to be with anyone else? Like, we are boyfriend, girlfriend?
And at the time, neither of us were dating anybody that I know
Well,
of.
I was.
Right. You.
I was interested in somebody, and we had a date planned probably 2 or so weeks after I met Dad. And I had a business trip in Rhode Island. There was a storm. The planes were grounded. And I really wanted to have a date with that other person that night because I needed to know. I needed to know which was in and which was out. Hordes of people got bus rides back to Manhattan, and I stuck it out at the airport. The pilot finally decided to fly. I got back to New York just in time for the date, and this guy ended up winning. So it turned out well.
It was a half a chance.
There was
50-50?
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah.
Do you think there is any upside to playing games, or do you think being transparent and just sharing your feelings is the way to go?
I think that it's circumstantial, that if something is real, then it's all upside. And if one of the couple is out there to play games or not entirely interested, then maybe playing games makes the person a little more interesting or attractive. But I think if there's already this any kind of attraction or connection, then the games matter less.
Yeah.
The games, the rules, as you like to call them.
Dad?
It all depends on the circumstance.
Yeah.
All
right.
No, seriously. You
I
don't
disagree.
always know.
I don't disagree.
You may or may not be that interested in the person, but you don't know what the other side is doing.
Right.
So it takes some time to figure that out. And sometimes people go at different trajectories, and it doesn't always work.
Yeah, but that's not to say like play games or play hard to get because you're not sure what someone else's level of interest is. It's
Why bother?
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's
Share
no-
how you feel. And if they don't feel the same way, or if they're on a different trajectory, you may as well find out that information.
You may want to just hang out anyway.
Yeah.
And I think when you say that, it can mean that a person is just not ready to meet their person.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Or it could mean level of interest
Yeah.
in a particular person.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'll just say that we were in our 30s when we met. And so we were on that trajectory of being ready to meet somebody.
Speak for yourself. I was not in my 30s.
Well, on that note, how did you know that each other was the one?
Just kind of evolved very quickly. And we, being single in the city and being new in let's say a relationship, there's a lot to do if you want to follow through. And I had business things to do, bring her along. She had business things to do, bring me along. So we kind of melded into that, and she met some of my friends down in the village. We hung out. We kept busy and always had something to do. And whether it's just going out to dinner, playing tennis, or whatever, just enjoyed each other's company. And that was a building block.
Definitely a mutual attraction. I remember one particular moment. I don't know if I ever told you this.
What did I do wrong?
No,
what I do right.
We had been dating a few weeks. We were already driving to Long Island. Dad was coming to Grandma's house. And I don't know, we were driving on the Long Island Expressway and having a conversation. And I looked over at Dad, and there was a certain expression or smirk or just a certain demeanor about him that made me really happy and made me feel really good and positive. And I just thought everything was in the right place here.
Not to ruin this
And
lovely moment that you're expressing, but are you sure this happened while he was driving? It was nice and calm and peaceful and lovely.
Well,
he wasn't yelling these assholes at everyone who cut him off.
those were the days. I'm sorry you weren't there to witness them.
Never experienced this.
Yeah.
Oh.
On one of our first dates, I actually went to her uncle's funeral.
Oh, wow.
Uncle, was it Leo?
And we saw his house the other day.
Yeah. Oh. Fast forward a bit. You got engaged after 6 months.
Yeah.
6 months and 10 days. Yeah, something like that.
Who's counting? Talk us through the proposal. And Mom, I'm curious if you expected him to propose when he did, or if you thought it would be like later on, or were you waiting for it? How did this all unfold?
Which part would you like to explain? I'll explain one thing. My birthday came after 3 months of dating. We were at a restaurant called The Terrace in Upper Manhattan. It is no longer there. Having a beautiful dinner with views, just beautiful. And Dad handed me a little black box under the table. And I saw that box, and I was quite sure that it was a ring.
3 months in.
3 months in.
And how did you feel when thinking it was a ring?
Very good.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Okay.
That's what it looked like, and the way it was handed very secretly and everything. It was diamond stud earrings, which I did not take out of my ears for probably 36 years. So that was 3 months in. 6 months in, would you like to describe?
New Year's Eve, restaurant Entrecote.
Place of our first dinner date.
And,
Wow. So we all got engaged where we had our first date.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And,
I didn't know that.
And they're not there anymore.
Yeah.
As is yours
Actually,
not there anymore.
Jake and I passed by the other day, and the new the new restaurant is about to open, and we're like, oh, we got to go the first week, like introduce ourselves to them, and like whatever restaurants continue to open in that spot, we want to continue to go back, even though it's no longer Quality Eats.
Well, ours is a real estate office.
So I guess I gave her a box with a note. Say, I want to be with you for your 50th or something like that.
It said, it was a card, and I opened it, and it said, "Happy 50th. I plan to be there for the celebration." Now, 50th seemed decades away,
Yes.
which it actually was at the time.
Another half your life again.
That was New Year's Eve. And there was some sort of was it a college ring? You gave me something to wear around my neck until we went ring shopping.
So you proposed without a ring.
I don't recall that totally. I know it was.
She's nodding her
Yes.
head.
I was you. By the way, the jeweler that I went to, she knew. She grew up with the family, and I
Of
knew.
course.
And I got to him through a good friend who was getting a guy who I knew from basketball.
Yeah.
Had a friend who was in this business, and it was somebody she knew, as it turned out.
I think that was after, though.
Oh, well, where else would I have gotten anything?
I'm
The
not
part of the
sure.
story I've heard before is that you went ring shopping together afterwards. So you proposed without a ring. But it worked out. It's okay.
I don't recall that.
It all
I
worked
thought
out.
I had something.
We're here.
Yes,
We're
yes.
here today
You're
to tell
here.
the tale.
Well, that's why you handed me a card, not
Yeah.
a box.
I thought I gave you a box too. Anyway.
Well,
whatever.
as we mentioned, this was many, many decades and moons ago. So how has your relationship evolved as you've gone through different seasons of your lives? You know, like having kids, moving out of New York City to the suburbs, having more kids, like us growing up. How have you guys stayed you two with all of that happening?
Division of labor and strong management. Obviously, having children changes everything. Also, I was traveling a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that, child rearing ended up on Barbara's plate because I wasn't always going to be there because I was disappearing every day to go to work, had to work in Manhattan. We were living in the suburbs and also traveled a lot.
I still can't believe you commuted for like 40 years.
But I could sleep on the way back. On the way in, I'd read the paper. It wasn't terrible, but it was a way to give you guys a place to live and a good education.
I appreciate it.
At the point,
Very grateful.
back in the early 90s, New York was not It was not a place to live. It was dangerous. It was hostile. You had several epidemics going on, whether it was AIDS and you had crack epidemic. It was hot and a bad recession. Anyway, so we moved to the burbs, had a child. We would have only had one if we stayed in the city, and we ended up having more kids, and it was nice, and got a chance to, be in the country, play, and try to get you guys to be on board with stuff like that we liked.
The good old country, Chappaqua and Armonk.
Yeah, well, it's suburban rural, and it was very safe, very clean, and we ended up at a house instead of a small apartment, and that really worked, and the schools certainly were helpful.
Mom, anything to add?
What to add? Well, I stopped working in banking when the first Andrew was born, and I kept busy with some other little jobs from home. What else did
You did stuff for your brother?
I worked.
You
Yes,
painted.
I worked from home. I didn't start painting again until first there was Andrew, then there was Brian, then there was you, all in 4.5 years. When you turned 3, I was looking for a dance class for you and saw painting at the same venue. And I said, oh, I should try that again. So began my next few decades of painting. And then came the real estate license and so on. But I think that
Black belt.
the black belt through
Jewelry making.
the jewelry, but through it all, Dad and we kept and developed our own interests. So I think that I went off in my direction. Dad called from an airport one night and I said, I can't go. I can't talk. I'm in a hurry. I got to go. He said, where are you going? I'm taking a real estate license class. And he didn't even know that I was planning to do that. So again, we followed our interests and we supported one another in that. When Dad was away traveling, could be 3-4 days at a time, not that often, but I was busy with you and your brothers and I was busy painting. So it was fine.
Yeah.
Everything was great. And I loved life then.
Yeah.
You also developed
great.
division of labor, whether it was through finance or cooking or this or that.
Yes.
As it's well known that I do not cook.
There's cooking, there's cleaning, detail,
And managing
there's
the whole
light
process.
bulb changing.
I could do that.
There's the smoke alarm detector going
right,
off, the beeping.
One person kills the bugs, the other one feeds the dog. We have our division of labor.
I take care of the cars.
It just works.
Were there any times, well, not were there any, of course there were over the course of your marriage, obviously there was conflict at times. How did you guys figure out like the best way to have those hard conversations and work through challenges together?
A lot we ignore and just kind of evolve. I'm probably more flexible. Not many things bother me.
Dun, dun, dun.
Not many things bother me
Such
anymore.
as?
I don't let little things bother me. That's all. It doesn't matter. Battles are not meant to be fought all the time, and just kind of let things go.
Okay, which brings me to one of the incidents that happened that was definitely a falling in love. This is a good person for me, based off what he just said. And that was on that Vegas trip. Dad and I took a drive to, what canyon was that?
It was,
Bryce?
No, it was actually where Hoover Dam is.
Okay. Anyhow,
it's Lake Mead.
Dad propped the camera on his wallet on the roof of the car, and you probably know where this is going. We did a self-time photo, and we drove away. Got back to the hotel. Oh, where's my wallet? Drove away with the wallet on the roof of the car. It had everything in it.
But back then, you needed fewer IDs to
Dad
get on a plane.
I would have freaked out. Dad shook it off, and I thought that was amazing. That was such a good counterpoint to the way that I would be if it was my wallet, and it was fine.
So we get back to the hotel, and my friend's wallet was stolen, and his wife's purse was stolen.
Jesus.
This was at a pool at Vegas.
Right.
So none of us had anything.
Except for me.
And we were there for Mike's 40th birthday. His mom was there, and it was a nice event.
Well, that's another parallel between your story and mine and Jake's story, because even in our vows, he brought up when we were at One If by Land and my wallet was missing, and it really struck him how calm I was. Yeah. And how I was like, well, I'm not going to let this ruin like a special night. Like, right. I'll either find it later or I won't.
We texted over that.
Yeah.
And I love how it was found the next morning.
Yes.
Thank you, Barkley, for needing a walk.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the wallet was returned several years later.
Wow.
Some of the items that were in there were still in there. The cash was gone. I had a 1 million peso note, which was worthless, and a few other things. But the wallet was sent back by I guess it was the police or whatever they were.
Well, that happened to me too. Remember when I was quote unquote abroad in LA, and I did the same thing. I drove away from a gas station with my wallet on the roof of the car, and months later when the semester was over, someone sent the wallet back, and even like the $10 bill that I had in there was still in there. Like everything was in there,
fake ID and all.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, what else do we have? Which nephew do you like the most? It was a listener question.
That is the toughest question, because I have different kind of relationships with both of them. Okay, either of them. Michael, I don't see often because he's up here, and we talk about business kind of stuff. John is a puppy dog. He's this huge puppy who's funny.
Is John more like Lita or Barkley or Zoe or TJ or Kiki?
Is what? John the puppy?
Yeah.
John's the best puppy.
Which one?
He's
Which dog does he resembles him the most?
That's tough. He's kind of in between. He's not none of those.
Probably
particular.
Glita. She's kind of just bouncy
but John is always out there. And the thing is, since we're in Florida, we've had more time to spend with John there. We've had him over for dinner. We've been to his place, and we've bonded a little bit differently. And
we're certainly excited to spend more time with Michael and Louisa in Connecticut and Manhattan. So that's
and the
great.
answer to the question, each cousin has been the star at different times.
Politically correct.
And the
except when you guys beat up on Brian.
That
was not nice. They weren't nice to him.
I got bullied all the time by all of them. I was not involved in the beating up of Brian.
But they let you play football.
Yeah. Other than that, they weren't very nice to me. Anywho, this is all irrelevant to 99.9% of people listening.
But not
to answer or ask a more relevant question, somebody asked if you have any advice on how to remain hopeful as a single 32-year-old woman.
Okay, I would just say look at the glass half full, not half empty. Look at the bright side. You might have your biggest responsibility is that to yourself. And there's a whole big world out there. And I mean, I would just encourage you to think of it that way and be positive and get out there. Just get out. Don't stay home, and don't just stay home every day, every night. Just get out, walk around, look at people, smile. Mm-hmm. Goes a long way.
Yeah. I always like to remind my listeners.
Be approachable.
That you guys didn't meet until you were in your mid-30s.
We met low 30s.
Not so much.
I met a lot of people. I dated a lot in my 30s. Where did I meet people? I think I met a lot of my dates at tennis, doing something I love to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always the best way to do it, because when you're in that situation, you're your best self.
Right. I met people at tennis. I met people at events. Being out there was definitely the way to go.
The concept of being 32 and single as a woman, I don't think anyone should panic. It's by this point in time, you kind of know yourself a little better than when you're 23. And getting married when you're 23, chances are that's not going to really work too well, because you don't even know yourself. Mm-hmm. And you're also probably more established in your career. You have a better vision of what you like, and you'll find people, they're everywhere. And people who know, getting back to the office, you meet people who know people and know people, you network, and you find, there are places to go to meet people. If you want to cry and sit home and be bored and complain, that's on you. You have to be your own advocate on this and just get out there, and you'll find.
Giving the people the tough love they need to hear. Both of you. Appreciate it.
We've all been through a lot.
Yeah.
And certainly I've observed people over the years. We all have friends who've gone through all sorts of things. Mm-hmm. And hopefully we learn from that and not make mistakes. So we will make mistakes. You don't always know. And what you think is great may not be so good. And you think something is okay, it may get better. You don't know. But you have to try to play it out.
If you could give one piece of advice to your younger self about love, marriage, relationships, dating, what would it be?
I would say to keep an open mind and to not frame a picture of who you think you should end up with, but just keep an open mind, because you never know. And what you think could be a perfect marriage or partner might just be what is in your mind as a perfect marriage or a perfect paper marriage. Mm-hmm. It's something that maybe you were raised to believe or think or see, but it isn't about that. Give everybody a chance.
Is dad the type of person that you thought you would end up with?
That's a tough question. No, I don't think I knew who I would end up with. I really don't think I knew who I would end up with. I probably thought the person would be on some level, professional, whatever, educated professional. But the people I dated and liked really were all from all over and all kinds of backgrounds. Another great place to meet people, it's bringing it back to my mind now, was skiing. Ski trips. Go with a group. Looking for something to do. You like skiing or riding. Go sign up.
Yeah.
Get on that bus or that plane and go with a group to a great destination or even a not so great one, because the ambiance is, even on a chairlift, you will meet people.
Yeah, it's a lot of camaraderie. Everyone's happy and having
so
fun.
Better than the beach.
And you don't need a friend or a group of friends to go with. Like, there are so many companies that just do like group trips, and anyone can sign up. You can go by yourself.
I did that. I did it with and without people I knew.
Yeah.
I had the best time.
Yeah.
All the time.
All right, Dad, what advice would you give to young Chuck?
Young Chuck, leave Staten Island earlier. There was no upside there. And
What advice about love and marriage?
Well, it's basically this goes back to what was a subset of meeting people on Staten Island? Very limited. So in the city, it was late 70s. City was not in a great shape. By the middle 80s, things turned around, and it was a fun place to be. There were always things to do. And I've always said, if you live in a city, get out. If you can't afford to be there and can do anything, then you shouldn't be there. But there were so many opportunities to just be places and meet people. It was good. What was the question again?
What advice would you give to young Chuck about relationships, marriage, dating?
Don't make the same mistakes you made. Thinking that a certain relationship or that had a place to go, and going in kind of knowing it doesn't, and staying too long, and hurting people and myself.
Trying to sum up some advice for people: don't ignore red flags. I like to think where there's smoke, there's fire. If you think somebody is not all there for you or is not being honest with you, you probably have good reason to think that. It's a red flag. If something isn't working, don't try ever so much harder to try and make it work. It's a waste of time. Yeah. It really is. Don't try and make somebody like you. If it's happening, it's happening.
That shouldn't be that hard.
If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Exactly. With Dad, it was never hard. I mean, that's when you know it's right. When it's not hard, you can be yourself. I feel like, everybody has heard this before, but I guess I'm more experienced at this point in my life. Just don't try and make it work. If it's not working, it isn't worth it. There are too many missed opportunities.
Yeah.
We all wasted a lot of time, but that was part of the learning experience. Was it all good? It was frustrating at times. Sometimes you had a lot of fun and just kind of moved on. It was a long time ago. It was interesting being single in the city. That's for sure.
That hasn't changed.
Well, the areas that you can go to have changed. You couldn't even walk around those.
Okay, switching gears. Before we close this out, I have a few questions that were sent in about me. So, turning the tides towards Ilana, what do you guys think of Ilana's jobs since she was working at Hinge and now doing this podcast?
For you to be in a place where you were on the other side of the camera was shocking to you, and shocking to me. I mean, you stole my job. We talked about that before, where I was a house photographer, and you just gravitated, and you were so much better. You got trained, and you were very good at that. And realizing that being a photo major was not going to get you anywhere, photography major.
Yeah, I think that was one of the better choices I've made in my life.
I think you told me the story that the guy, a photographer came in, talked about how great a career was, but you never live in anything but a studio apartment. I guess that registered with you. I thought Sony, they overworked you. It was silly. You learned a lot about the music business, enough to think that you never want to get involved in that. And on a professional basis, you had the makings of someone which was perfect for you. You had the drama of every one of your friends from Syracuse, every one of your friends from Armonk. You knew a lot about dating. I don't even know if you had a boyfriend in college. You never talked about one, which is pretty crazy.
A lot of people did it. Like, I feel like there aren't as many college relationships as there used to be.
It used to be constant.
Yeah.
It was given. And I was kind of surprised.
Why do you think that's true?
But most of your girlfriends didn't either.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I knew very few people who were in relationships in college. I think it was just like the culture. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
people
was
guys didn't want to be in relationships.
Very different. But getting back to Hinge, I thought that was kind of cool, and it was a great working environment until they whatever things changed.
Keep it PG.
Yeah. Well,
it was great till it wasn't.
Great till it wasn't, and I thought it gave you an opportunity. Number one, to get into something that's interesting. You got into a podcast, which that obviously led to where you are today, which is great. Yeah. But I'm still surprised that you're outgoing.
I mean,
you were a shy kid.
I still am in many ways. Like, that's why people have always been surprised when I say I'm like afraid of public speaking. They're like, but you do public speaking every day. This is private speaking. It's very different. It's very different. This is different than being on a stage in front of 500 people. We're sitting at a
But you still won't
table.
call up for a reservation.
Correct.
Which is a little odd.
It's different. This is a safe haven.
Yeah.
But you've learned how to communicate to large groups, which is a very difficult thing to do. Mm-hmm. Public speaking is tough.
Yeah.
And very nerve-wracking. And once you get over that hump, it's great.
And
you're good at it.
I have a memory, real quick, Mom, of when I wanted to like leave music and leave Sony, and I didn't know like what to do next. I remember saying like, I want to freelance, and you both were like, you're not ready for that. I don't know if you guys recall that.
Healthcare are things that I think about.
It wasn't you aren't ready. It was more like think about
logistically.
the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But then
finances.
Fast forward when after my time at Hinge, when I lost my job, it was like there was no question in anyone's mind. I was just like, I'm not applying to jobs. I'm going to go do this. And you guys were like, yeah, go do it. Mm-hmm. Like if you can.
We said, we'll support you in this. Go give it a try.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I will say that having come out of a career in real estate that I always described as 24/7, for some of us, I see that you are more than 24/7. And when people think that being a podcaster influencer is so glamorous and all of that, I would just say that, as you know, I worry about you. I see podcasters portrayed in novels and in film and television, and it is never an easy life. They're always under so much pressure, and time again, I say something to you like, Ilana, are you sure this is okay? You've got to be under so much pressure. You never let up. And you say, but Mom, this is my passion. Mm-hmm. I love what I'm doing. Don't worry. I love it. Mm-hmm. So, that's where I worry, and that's your response. And if it ever isn't that, I hope that you will do something else.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are pros and cons to every job. And I think in the job I've created for myself, the pros absolutely outweigh the cons. And there are things that I still struggle with, like the instability and not knowing what, like how much I'm going to make in a year, or, you know, it ebbs and flows with like super busy weeks where I have 10 recordings and then like weeks where I have nothing, and same with partnerships. But at the same time, like I get to do something I love. I have a lot of flexibility. I get to incorporate friends and family into what I do, and I feel really lucky.
I am incredibly impressed by the way you schedule your life.
I don't think I'm very good at it.
It's from my point of view, it's amazing.
You're a busy person.
It's just what you've done and accomplished is amazing.
And you got a lot of friends, and you seem to keep them.
You should be really proud of yourself.
Thank you. I wasn't fishing for compliments, but I do appreciate them.
One question you were going to ask us about planning a wedding.
That's coming next.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, before we get into that, did I end up with the type of person you thought I would end up with, or that I should end up with?
Wow.
Good question. As I mentioned in the speech, he had a good outside jump shot, which got me. He's a mellow guy. He's competitive in many ways, but he's mellow, and I think that's a good combination for you. I think it's someone you needed, and seems flexible, and you've trained him pretty well. He never liked dogs before.
This is true.
And you never heard of the Jets before.
This is also true.
So you've kind of combined your passions and what you like, and seem to like to be with each other and play. You play games together. That's a big thing.
Often.
I had no preconceived notion of the kind of person you would end up with. I can only say that you and Jake seem to complement one another in so many ways. I love how you each are surrounded by your friend groups and how they've merged, and how you have not let go of those other relationships and continue to pursue your friendships and activities with them. And I love how happy you are, and we love Jake, and we love the two of you together.
Three of us.
Oh, sorry, Barks. Where's Barkley?
He's being a very good boy.
This
is his best performance during a recording
He's
ever.
so happy. And yeah, you've created a great beginning family unit.
Well, with the exception of Nick Jonas, you realize the music business was not for you.
Yes.
And Nick got married, so you had to go elsewhere.
Happy for him.
Happy for him.
It all worked out.
It all worked out, and you extricated yourself from that, which was not pleasant for anybody.
Yes. Second to last question. You brought up wedding planning. What was it like planning your daughter / your, not your first child, but your first child getting married's wedding?
Well, in the very beginning, first we were all excited about the engagement shoot. And while we were getting past that, I kind of set up Command Central at our countertop in Florida, and just started developing an arsenal of information from first it was the venues themselves. I guess about a month after the engagement, we visited 14 venues in and around New York.
In 2 days.
And as soon as we...
Don't recommend that.
As soon as we pinned down the date, again, Command Central, we were Zooming with photographers and florists and eventually party planners, definitely bands. And yeah, it was just a lot to do from March till June. I think by the end of June, everything was in place other than the 77 or 8 bridal gowns that you were to try on over that summer. So by the end of August, that was done, and everything calmed down until the last 6 or so weeks, during which, well, that was the only time that the rest of it could take place. So I think it was a little stressful not having ever done it before, but everything worked out better than we could have ever imagined.
Agreed.
We were so thrilled.
I'll start from the end.
We were
It
thrilled.
was perfect.
Yeah.
Could not have had better weather. Every vendor did their job. Barkley was terrific. The rent-a-rabbi was great. But getting there was tough. I mean, the trauma and the issue with the gown, which we schlepped down to Jersey a few times.
We don't need to get into it.
Long story, but it worked out. But it was not a straight line. It was not easy. But I had a non-speaking role primarily.
Yeah. Wedding planning is not for the faint of heart.
No, it's do you need this? Do you need that? What?
As it got close to the wedding date, the planning is overwhelming, and I didn't want it to end, but I wanted to get to it.
I could not have done another minute of planning.
I wanted to.
I needed it to end.
I wanted to get to it and have the wedding happen, and just to be there, and I couldn't really imagine what it would be like, and there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Walking down that aisle with you and standing under the chuppah with it all happening, and it was incredible. Yeah, just really incredibly happy.
And you're hiring the last month a woman. She was great.
Oh, Marissa.
Marissa really helped
shout
you.
out Marissa, Reinberg Events.
But that was
the best coordinator of all time.
That was a great hand-holding thing for you when it got you to the next spot.
Yeah.
And, Frank was great, the florist, and Ilana was unbelievable.
Everyone was great.
The staff were professionals. Everybody you hired did their job.
You're crying.
Was good. I always do. Oh. It must be the lighting.
Sure, something like that. Well, thank you guys so much for all of your help and all the tireless effort you put in for the wedding. It really was beyond anything I could have ever imagined. You've listened to Seeing Other People before, so you know how every episode ends. So I did not include this in the question list that I sent you, but hopefully you're prepared.
Okay.
What is the best piece of dating or relationship advice you've ever received or have to give? Or life advice. What do you want the Seeing Other People family to know?
Follow your heart. I would say when you know, and if there are doubts, run away.
Don't give up.
At a point.
You are your person. You'll try to find somebody who kind of makes you a better person, which I did.
Love yourself. Don't compromise. Don't. And I've seen it too often. Don't get married out of pressure. Don't get married because you want to be married. I see so many people around your age and your brother's ages. Sometimes I've heard people are getting married because it's the thing to do. All their friends are getting married. They want to get married. Follow your heart, because you just love yourself first. In that way, follow your heart and don't ever settle.
You don't want to marry the wrong person.
If there's any icky feeling, it won't get better. It will probably get worse. Just follow your heart. If you know, you know. If you don't know, don't do.
Well, thank you guys. We did it.
Yeah.
We did it. Thank you. Andrew's clapping in the corner. We did have an audience of Andrew plus Barkley, so 1.5.
Barkley fell asleep, though.
I know.
Oh,
That's
no.
okay.
That's sad.
Andrew says
You
he
can't
did too.
entertain your puppy.
Well, thank you guys so much. I love you both. I'm so glad we did this. And love you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yay.